Hello, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Justice Now. My name is Leah Jones, and I am the Water Justice Organizer and Organizing Coordinator here at Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. Before we get started today, as usual, I like to do just a very brief land acknowledgement. While we are on a video call and many of us are joining in from all sorts of different places, it's important that we remind ourselves that we do gather on the unceded land of the indigenous people. I am joining in from so-called Richmond, Virginia, and I am currently located on the land of the Powhatan and Chickahominy peoples. If you are unsure of whose land you are on and you would like to learn more and find out, you can always visit native-land.ca to check it out. Alrighty, so diving into the episode this week, thank you all again for joining us for another week. Just diving in, we know that climate change, pollution, and traffic congestion are just a few of the problems that we are currently facing ongoing as we're dealing with the issues that come specifically with public transportation. These issues obviously significantly impact our health, our economy, and our environment, right? So the transportation sector in Virginia specifically is actually responsible for approximately 30% of the greenhouse gas emissions in total that exist here within the state. And much of these emissions are actually from single owner vehicles. So one solution to this is actually to try and expand our public transit accessibility systems and increase our overall ridership for public transportation or in public transportation. And that's why we have invited everyone throughout the state of Virginia, specifically in a couple cities in Richmond, Virginia, Roanoke, Virginia, and Petersburg, Virginia, all to use this week beginning, it started just earlier on Sunday, but we've been inviting everyone to ride the bus this week. If you don't already, take some time to go out of your way and use public transportation. Especially, we know that to us, public transportation is an important common good, and it can definitely drastically impact your day-to-day schedule and your activities, especially if public transportation is your only option. And with a robust public transport service, we can significantly improve, our quality of life for everyone and even strengthen our community in some ways. And we did do this program last year, just in Richmond, Ride the Bus Week. But like I mentioned, we are extending it now for others to participate throughout the state. We really are hoping this encourages ridership and in turn is able to continue growing our public transportation system and the accessibility of it, the quality of it. All of these things we feel like can come from increasing our ridership and ultimately decrease our emissions here in Virginia. So ultimately, we definitely felt like this event as well, Ride the Bus Week, was an opportunity to really hear more from regular GRTC riders and Pulse riders about their thoughts on the bus and how often they ride and any changes they would maybe make to make their experience better. So last year during Ride the Bus Week, we were actually able to record some conversations that we actually did at bus stops, interviewing, doing some short, very small, quick interviews, active surveys rather, I would call them, where people were able to share their thoughts about riding the bus and what they would improve. So I have some of that footage today. I'm going to be able to share that with you all now in just a moment, so that you all can also hear firsthand. Every day. And so do you feel like you just ride like shorter routes, or do you use it to take longer routes as well, like around the city?
So I work at the hospital, so I mainly go down to like the MCP station. I have tried attempting to take the bus to like Target and Willing Lawn, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's a great. It's quite a commute, and recently there have been so many closures due to marathons, events, graduation, the paving of the road, which I understand are all necessary, but those aren't communicated well in advance. So there are times when I'm really desperate to get to work, and they're like, "Oh no, this whole street is closed today, so you can just walk there." And I'm like, "Okay."
Totally throwing a wrench in my plan.
Yeah.
Right. So where are you headed today?
Today I'm going to Main Street Station.
Oh.
Going to DC.
Travel.
Yeah.
Memorial Day weekend. And then I just have one more question, which was just, what do you feel like could be useful improvements for the bus system here in Richmond? Like, do you think there should be more shelters, benches, more routes, that sort of thing?
I think more routes would be helpful, or just even if it's through like physical posters, communicating when there are any major route changes that will affect the commuting schedule, especially if it's just like either an extended thing or a one-time thing, would be really helpful. I know that there are like signboards and postings over here that could be added. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
It's because unless I check like the GRTC Post website, it's really hard to know what is happening if you don't have like a social media or anything. So I think it's inaccessible for some riders because there are some more senior members of our community who use the bus, and when there are changes to the schedule, they have absolutely no idea what's going on. So they'll ask the bus driver, and most of them are pretty helpful.
Yeah.
But sometimes even the drivers don't really know what the new routes are. Like when they were paving Broad, if I was trying to get to like the Science Museum or Aldi, there was like a whole rerouting system, and then most of the time I would just walk the rest of the
And
way.
the drivers will also be.
Yeah. I mean, they were confused too. Like,
Yeah. Okay, well, that was all the questions that we had today. And we just wanted to ask was, how often do you ride the bus?
Maybe 3 to 4 days out the week, every 2 weeks. Yeah.
And do you feel like you travel far, like when you ride the bus? Like, do you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So where are you headed to today?
My job, Roots on West Broad.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so my last question was, if you feel like you can make improvements to the bus, the system, what would you say? Like, would you want more shelters, benches? Are the routes frustrating?
More benches, definitely. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, it's fine. I wish they would come more often, but yeah. That's about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So how often do you ride the bus?
A little bit. I just started back riding it not too long ago. I mean, it's okay. Sometimes it's frustrating, but once you know the routes, it's easy.
You feel like it's frustrating because it's hard to figure out the routes, or for other reasons too?
I mean, for other reasons too, but a lot of times just to say, like, if you miss the bus or something, then you gotta wait another 35 to 45 minutes, and then you're late for work. So, but other than that, I try not to complain because I know it can be worse. So, other than that, it seems okay.
Okay, nice. And what stop are you headed to today? Are you going far? Are you going close?
Just down the street.
Okay, cool. And then my last question was, like, if you could make any specific like changes, what would you do? Like, would you want there to be more shelters or like benches, or
Probably more benches.
Yeah, more benches.
So standing up.
After working all day. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much. That
You're
was
welcome.
all right. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed that compilation. It was very brief. We only conducted a few short surveys, but from those that we collected, I think we can all clearly hear some commonalities in the answers that we received. So let's just go through some of the biggest takeaways from what we even just heard from this video, this compilation of surveys that we were able to do. I think in general, what we've heard overall is that the bus system is fine. Like, it can get you to where you would like to go, but there's definitely a ton of room for improvement, right? Things like increasing bus routes and how often the buses come to the stop definitely seem like a frustration. across the board. And if you notice, we were in different areas in the city as well here in Richmond. So even to say that that's a frustration across the board says something, right? Especially since the people that we all interviewed today or last year during this time for Ride the Bus Week was the bus is actually their preferred method of transportation and to make it to their jobs, their commitments, which can of course cause issues being late, potentially losing your job or just not making it to your medical appointments on time. These are all things that are impacted directly by how our public transit system is operating. In addition to this, I think there was a very great point as well made about the communication that occurs for between GRTC and the public, especially when we're considering or route changes and making sure folks are aware of any delays that may be happening, any route changes. That has really been seen as something that's been challenging that we've heard throughout those surveys that we were able to share with you here today. So especially even more so if you aren't a person who's able to navigate the internet easily, navigate or even have access to the internet, if you don't have a smartphone or anything like that. These are all things that can kind of get in the way of knowing whether or not your bus will be on time or if there's any delays, any changes in the routes. So not being able to stay in the loop, right? And I actually love the person from the first clip, the first survey that mentioned that this could especially be a considerable challenge for someone like older residents who really aren't as familiar with things like the web or social media. Especially we know a lot of our riders probably are elderly residents. So that's something that's very important to keep in mind as we look towards trying to improve our public transportation. And I think one of the last things that I want to mention as a takeaway from these surveys that stood out is just definitely that the bus needs to be more rider friendly, making it more of an enjoyable experience overall, especially when we're making sure there are more bus stops that have shelters and benches, a place where folks can actually sit down and not have to stand for long extended periods of time and whatever the weather might be that day, especially if you're coming from a long day of work, not being able to have a seat and just take a breath and relax can be a bit frustrating and also not encourage you to ride the bus. And honestly, you see riding the bus as more of an inconvenience than a benefit. So with Ride the Bus Week, we've really been hoping to highlight this importance of improving our public transportation, not only for the sake of our emissions here in the state, but also for the sake of the people who are riding it and improving their quality of life. And encouraging us all to use the public transportation that's available to us, right? Because we should be able to use it if that's what works best for us or what we prefer. Please, if you have not already participated in Ride the Bus Week, you can still, even though we have reached the end of Ride the Bus Week, there is still one day left within this week. And it doesn't have to be Ride the Bus Week for you to ride the bus either. But please sign up to join us if you would like. You can still share your thoughts also on a survey that we have where you can share any improvements that you might want to make if you do have familiarity riding the bus, or even if you don't, check it out. Lastly, if you would like to support this initiative to improve our transportation systems, making things more equitable, making the rides more accessible and a better experience overall, you can also sign our petition in support of equitable public transportation by checking out this link here. And I think that is all I have for everyone today on Ride the Bus Week. We hope you are able to participate in some capacity And we hope to continue to hear more from you all about your thoughts on our public transportation system. And let's continue to try and make make public transportation better for the health of our communities and our world. So I think I'll go ahead and sign off as usual. If you would like to keep up with everything VIPL, other things that we're up to in addition to Ride the Bus Week, all of our upcoming events and resources available, you can always join our supporters list at this link here. And as usual, we'll be back next week, same time, same place. And we will see you all then. Thanks for checking us out. Bye.